Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA, prime Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates. We're applicable, of course, all of our independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates in select markets, Hotel TV. We're applicable also on Pick Your Favorite streaming platform. And by the way, also want to welcome in everybody on the Mars Rover, too. All right. By the way, folks, right from the very top here, we want to make sure that we let you know that our friends over at Vacation Buddies wants to give you a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida, if you know the answer to this very simple trivia question. Okay, which of these NBA superstars won 6 NBA titles? Is it A, Magic Johnson, B, Larry Bird, C, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or D, Michael Jordan? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but want to give you a couple of nights here in Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida, if you know the answer to that very, very simple trivia question. 888-576-5777. Call now. All right. It's going to be baseball today, folks. Lots of baseball to talk about. Lots going on in Major League Baseball. I mean, look, we have all kinds of very, very interesting things happening in the playoff hunt because here we are at the home stretch, and we have all kinds of mayhem going on. And by the way, Ozzie Albies out with a broken bone in the hand, by the way. And that is his left hand. So guess what? Ozzie is going to be out for the Atlanta Braves. But then again, the Atlanta Braves are not in the race. But that's for everybody listening in on WAUD 1230 on the AM dial down in Auburn, Alabama, and Columbus, Georgia. Also in Montgomery, Alabama as well. How about your Montgomery buttermilk biscuits? Yes, the Montgomery biscuits. Of course, they always get a nice round of applause here. That is the AA squad for the Tampa Bay Rays. They are in the semifinals. And, boy, they've got themselves one hell of a matchup with the Birmingham Barons. So it's the White Sox, the Birmingham Barons, against the Tampa Bay Rays of the Montgomery Buttermilk Biscuits. And I got to tell you, I'm a White Sox guy, but I have all kinds of Montgomery Biscuits, hats, T-shirts, posters, all kinds of cool stuff. Easily the coolest logo or the coolest mascot that I've seen in professional baseball to date. Prior to that, it was the Joliet Jackhammers, which was an independent team in Joliet, Illinois. But, of course, they've been replaced by the Joliet Slammers. That's right. And the Jailbird, believe it or not, is their mascot. But, all right, back to this playoff craziness. Let's take a quick look here at the Major League Baseball standings and who has what coming up here. We're going to start over in the American League East, and it is the Tampa Bay Rays. It is the Toronto Blue Jays, 2 games up on the New York Yankees, and the Boston Red Sox sit 5 back. Now, mind you, this is only division. We'll get to the wild card in just a minute here. In the division, it looks like the Yankees have a shot here to overtake Toronto. And now Toronto has 3 games coming up against the Boston Red Sox in Toronto. Meanwhile, the Yankees are hosting my beloved Chicago White Sox. So things look a little bit brighter for the Yankees, who I had basically coming out of the American League anyway in the world for the World Series. But nonetheless, it looks like the Yankees can catch the Jays if the Jays get a little flat-footed. Because, again, 3 against the Red Sox versus 3 against the White Sox. The Yankees are in better shape. Now, the bigger question is, who is after that one? Because when you look at these teams, you say, well, all right, so that would be the first 3 games going into the final week here, I should say, of Major League Baseball. Then the Yankees also are hosting the Baltimore Orioles. And mind you, that is the last place Baltimore Orioles, which I would have never thought that at the beginning of the season, not for a second. So looking at the Toronto Blue Jays, of course, they are hosting the Boston Red Sox, and then they are hosting the very pesky Tampa Bay Rays. So it looks like the Blue Jays have a real shot here at losing the American League East to the Yankees. And the Red Sox are not completely eliminated if Boston wins the first 3 against the Red Sox. Let's just say they're going to Toronto. Let's see if I can spit that one out. If Boston beats the Toronto Blue Jays, not if Boston beats Boston, I guess they could beat themselves, then the Red Sox have 3 left at home against the Detroit Tigers, who are really, really struggling. So, I mean, look, it seems as though Boston could actually win their last 6 games, and who the hell knows what could happen here. The Yankees, they have an easier road for sure. But right now, I'm going to pick the Yankees to finish on top in the American League East. Now, over in the Central, here's where things get very interesting, because it's the Detroit Tigers who had a 15-game lead over the Cleveland Guardians. That's right, 15 games. It's down to 1 game. Now, Cleveland has 3 games head-to-head at home against the Detroit Tigers, and then they have 3 games at home against who? The Texas Rangers. Now, when you look at Detroit, of course, you know they're hitting the road to play Cleveland for the next 3 games. And then Detroit has their hands full with the Boston Red Sox, who are fighting for a spot themselves. So you got to give the upper hand there to the Cleveland Guardians. The Royals, you're out of it. But boy, that is one hell of a setup over there in the American League Central. I mean, let's think about this for a second. Look, Detroit has lost their last 9 out of 10. Cleveland has won their last 9 out of 10. Detroit has lost their last 6 games. Yet their differential is still, they are plus 73. But don't let that differential really change your thoughts here, because Cleveland's differential is -9, but Cleveland is peaking right now. And Cleveland, let's take a look at what they have done. Listen, against the better teams, they have not fared very well. They're actually 9 games under 500, whereas the Detroit Tigers are 3 games over 500. Now, on the road, Detroit is 3 games over 500, but on the road, Cleveland is 5 games over 500. And so Cleveland seems to be better equipped for hitting the road anyway, which it looks like they may be in the position for a wild card slot. And going back to the American League East real quick, let's just say things end as it stands right now. The Yankees are really good on the road, and they're really good at home. And the Yankees are just 1 click over 500 against the better teams in baseball, whereas the Blue Jays are just 1 game under 500 on the road, but they are 50 wins against 25 losses at home. Boy, talk about a home field advantage. And they're also 7 games over against the better teams in baseball. Meanwhile, the Boston Red Sox are playing 500 ball away. They are 14 games over 500 at home and 1 game under against teams that are better than 500. So the bigger question is, out of those three, who's going to face off against somebody potentially in the Central? Or do two teams in the Central maybe square off against each other? How about in the American League West? I mean, this is getting pretty interesting, folks. The Seattle Mariners have won their last 9 out of 10. Boy, you want to talk about a streaky team. Here they're way up in first, and now Houston's way up in first, and now Seattle's 3 games up in first going into the last week of the season. So far, 9-1 in their last 10. They won their last 4. Differential is rolling at plus 68. And Seattle is 7 games over 500 against the teams that are good, that are above 500. But they are only 3 games under 500 on the road. That's right. Whereas the Houston Astros are over 500 at home, and they're essentially the same record against the better teams. But it happens that Houston is 11 games over 500 at home. Houston is a more balanced squad, whether it's road or whether it's home. But then again, it's Seattle that just took it to Houston. And you ask, can anybody in the West stop the Seattle Mariners? Better yet, can anybody in the American League stop the Mariners? We're going to continue with the American League here in just a few minutes here on the Sports Circus. Lots more to come, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
Excellent.
Stop it! Stop it!
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, plus all others. Also, check out the partners page. Lots of great partners over there. One of those, our favorite, is Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. If you don't know anything about it, check it out, folks. Go to alsbeef.com and you can read all about the Italian beef sandwich. It's been created 117 years ago in Chicago's Little Italy by the creators, and that is the Ferrara family. Listen, folks, if you've never had an Italian beef sandwich and you think the Philly cheesesteak sandwich is good, listen, you haven't had a great sandwich yet until you have one of those. Clearly the best in the business. Check them out. Read about it. Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy, or check them out again at alsbeef.com. Yes! Yes! Of course, it's our favorite, so we're going to plug it just a little bit more, just because we can. Man, that's good stuff. Got to tell you, folks, not my last trip to Chicago, but the time before, I went for 8 days, and I gained 9 pounds. That's right, 9 pounds. Imagine that. The food is so damn good. I had pizza 6 times out of 8 days, had Italian beef sandwiches, went to every good bakery that I could find. Lots and lots of great bakeries in Chicagoland, whether it's Italian bakeries or German bakeries or Polish bakeries or Chinese bakeries, Russian bakeries, Ukraine bakeries, Thai bakeries. I tell you what, folks, they are absolutely incredible. It's so hard not to gain weight by going to Chicago because the food is so damn good. Everyone says, well, New York's got good food too. Yeah, they've got some pretty good food. I won't say they don't. But I have to say I'm a little biased because that's back home for me. But I have to tell you also, Chicago is the pizza capital of the world. That's right. So it was created over in Napoli, brought over from Napoli to the East Coast, and then they brought over that same cardboard, greasy, flimsy, whatever the hell thing that they call pizza over there, but it was perfected in Chicago. People say, well, you only have the deep dish pizza. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. They actually have thin crust as the absolute signature pizza. So for you people that think that, well, Chicago only has deep dish pizza, no, that's not true. Because we also have the thin cut, which is really what Chicago is known for as far as food, as far as pizza goes. Why am I going there with this? I have no damn clue. But I can tell you, the food really is amazing. In fact, our friends over at Salerno's on the Fox River is probably the best Sicilian crust pizza, thick pizza that I've ever had. And I tell you, it is absolutely phenomenal. In fact, if you email me, if you send me info@thesportscircus.com, I'll send you a picture that I ate this enormous pizza with the great Don Beebe. Remember, Don Beebe is the guy that stripped Leon Lett in the Super Bowl from scoring with the Dallas Cowboys against the Buffalo Bills. And Don lost 4 Super Bowls with the Buffalo Bills, but came back and won with Green Bay. But Don is a good friend of the show, and I'll send you a picture that I took of Don and myself that actually ate this enormous pizza, Folks, I mean, it is gigantic, but man, was it good. Again, I'm talking about pizza. It's supposed to be a sports show. Hey, listen, it's also food. By the way, folks, if you happen to be on Facebook, check out Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Talk about your favorite restaurants, favorite recipes, your favorite foods. Make some friends. Have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. It's a fun group. It's a free group. I built it from zero. We have over 3,500 members of this group now. And listen, it's just growing and growing. And you can even advertise on there as well. How do you like that? Okay, now that we've just burnt the last, we'll just call it the last 5 minutes here, talking about no sports. I'm going to get back into baseball here. And, all right, we left off with the American League. We're thinking we're in the last week of the season. And so it looks like the American League East and the American League Central have yet to be decided. And honestly, I'm going to say that the American League West, I'm going to already call the American League West because Seattle and Houston, yes, they sit 3 games apart. Seattle just really took it to them. And when we look at what Seattle's got left, well, let's face it. Seattle has 3 games against Colorado, but then 3 games at home against the Dodgers and a potential, that's right, you heard me say it, a potential World Series preview? Could that be? Now, with Houston, what they have remaining are 3 games at home against, actually, better yet, in Sacramento against the A's, and then they play the doormat down in Anaheim, 3 games on the road against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of Orange County, the Orange Curtain of Interstate 5 of Santa Ana Riverbed, with a rock pile out in center field, whatever. The longest name in baseball. So they've got, being Houston, they've got 6 games on the road in California, and it looks like the 3 games with Colorado, let's just say hypothetically, Houston was to win out, and let's just say the Mariners were to lose out. Well, yeah, it could look a little bit strange. It could look a little bit funky. I don't think that they're going to lose out. Let's say they get some games. Maybe they get 2 games, 2 out of 3 against Colorado, 1 game out of 3 against the Dodgers. They win 3. And even if Houston wins out, that means there's a tie, but the tiebreaker goes to Seattle anyway. So eventually, I've got Seattle winning the American League West. I've got the Cleveland Guardians. Of course, I always want to call them the Indians. You know, Chief Wahoo was clearly the best mascot in all of baseball, along with Mr. Red, but I'm going to give it to Chief Wahoo. Too bad he's not around. Nonetheless, I'm going to give it to Cleveland in the American League Central, and I'm going to give it to the New York Yankees in the American League East. That's what I've got shaping up over in the American League. And let's take a look real quick at the wild card, what that looks like with the rest of the American League, because I mean, there's some battles going on here, folks. Now you've got 4 teams that are fighting for 3 slots. So it's the Yankees, they're +4, they're going to get in there. The Boston Red Sox are only +1. Cleveland and Houston are tied. However, it's Cleveland that sits above Houston, and I believe it's just because of head-to-head. I don't think there's any other reason. But when you look at these 2 teams, Houston is actually better against the better teams than Cleveland. But Cleveland is a better road team. And you have to ask, what was the record for Cleveland before they went on the tear? Let's just say, I don't know, before August 1st. Cleveland's been playing solid baseball since August 1st. So I'm going to give it to Cleveland over Houston to take that final wild card slot. I mean, Boston, you never know. They could fall out, and Houston could sneak in there. So, I mean, this is a really tight race. You got 4 teams really battling for 3 positions. And so, shifting over into the National League, when you look at this, you say, well, it may be a little bit more clear-cut in the National League, or is it? We know the Phillies are going to win, and they have won the National League East. I mean, they're 12 over the New York Metropolitans, and then that's it. There's a big drop-off. Now, in the Central, it is the Brewers. They won the National League Central over the Northsiders from Chicago. And Cincinnati, sits right behind in that playoff picture in the wild card slot. And let's get into that in just a moment. But it's the Dodgers and Padres battling it out. The Dodgers have 88 wins. The Padres have 86 wins. Now, San Diego, of course, they have their games against Milwaukee. They're hosting them. The Dodgers travel to play those pesky Arizona Diamondbacks. Who's going to win that division? I think the Dodgers are going to hold on because they still sit about 2.5 games up over the Padres. So that's really the only race left. However, if you look at that wild card race in the National League, it gets a little bit interesting here. So with the National League, you've got the Cubs are locked in, the Padres are locked in. You really have 3 teams fighting for the last spot in the wild card. Right now, with a tiebreaker, it is the Cincinnati Reds. I'll get to them in just a minute, but it's the Reds that hold the last spot by tiebreaker. Now, the Reds have won their last 5 games, too, and they just took 4 from the Cubs. It's the Mets that sit literally the tiebreaker below the Mets, and yet you have the Arizona Diamondbacks. So let's think about this. Now, the Reds have, in their 2 final series, they play at home against Pittsburgh. They're going to have to face Paul Skeens. So you can almost chalk up 1 loss for Cincinnati there. And they also have to play the Milwaukee Brewers, which, let's face it, the Brewers have just beat up on everybody in the National League in the first place and the National League Central. Now, if you look at the New York Mets, well, the Mets have 3 games in Chicago against the Northsiders. That's not going to be any easy task because I'll tell you what, there's no way that the Northsiders want to lose any games to a team they're likely going to meet in the postseason, but they'd sure like to be able to take them out. In fact, when we get back, we're going to talk wildcard baseball in the National League. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors Players who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven, gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number.
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. And a big welcome back to everybody on radio and TV. You know who you are. By the way, folks, at the top of the show, we read something from Vacation Buddies, and we want to go ahead and get that back out there for everybody that's just tuning in or just tuned in a little bit ago, and you missed out because Vacation Buddies wants to give you a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida, if you know the answer to a simple trivia question. And here's the question in case you missed it. Which of these NBA superstars won 6 NBA titles? Is it A, Magic Johnson, B, Larry Bird, C, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or D, Michael Jordan? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. If you know the answer to that simple trivia question, listen, Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this radio station, but they want you to go to either Vegas, Orlando, or Branson, Missouri on them. Give them a call, 888-576-5777. Call now. All right, back to this baseball playoff picture. Now, the wild card in the National League, I'm finding it very interesting because when you look at these teams, again, I had mentioned it was the Reds, Mets, and Diamondbacks, and we know that the Reds have 3 against Pittsburgh. They are going to have to face Paul Skeens. They also have to face the Milwaukee Brewers to close the season. And the New York Mets, they've got to play the Cubs in Chicago, and then they have to play Miami in Miami. And I don't know about you folks, but Miami they're playing really good ball right now. And geez, they've won their last 6 games. And these guys don't really have a lot of quit in them. And when you say, well, are they going to have a hard time being the New York Mets? I'm going to say yes, they are going to have a hard time. But now remember, it's also the Diamondbacks that sit 1 game out of that last wild card slot, which is occupied right now by the Cincinnati Reds. And boy, it's no easy task for them because they have the Dodgers at home for 3, and then they travel to San Diego for 3. So they're playing the 2 teams that are fighting for the division lead that are both ahead of them. I mean, can the Diamondbacks do it? Yeah, the Diamondbacks are a very good squad. Despite losing Naylor and losing Suarez and losing this guy and losing that guy, boy, they just know how to play small ball. They know how to advance runners. They're a very, very good squad. And so you say, well, can they really get her done? I don't know. I think they certainly have the hardest road in the National League as far as that wild card slot goes. But hey, listen, anything could happen in the wild, wild west. So with all that said, we have these postseason brackets as if everything ended today, just today, what we would see over in the American League side, a 6 versus 3, it would be the Detroit Tigers hosting in the wild card round. They would be hosting the Cleveland Guardians. Of course, I want to call them Indians. And we've already seen what Cleveland and Detroit, we've already seen that movie. And boy, Cleveland has really taken it to them. And this is exactly the fate of the Detroit Tigers, who were up by 15 games. Now, on the bottom of that bracket on the American League side, it would be that classic rival of the Red Sox and Yankees. And we know that one, too. We've seen a lot of that. Now, awaiting the winner of the Tigers and the Guardians would be in the divisional round, it would be the Seattle Mariners. And Seattle has played very well against both Cleveland and Detroit. Now, over in the American League East, well, guess what? That division series, the winner of the Yankees or Red Sox get their division rival, the Toronto Blue Jays. You want to talk about a way you're just getting tired of playing the same teams over and over. Now, that's the wild card round and the divisional series. I'm going to think that Cleveland would advance there, and then we would see Cleveland and Seattle. I think Cleveland's road ends right there. Seattle just has too much. They have great pitching, and let's face it, these guys can hit from top to bottom. Now, over in the bottom of that bracket, I think it's going to be the Yankees that end up beating the Boston Red Sox. And I think the Yankees will be able to get by the Toronto Blue Jays. That said, you would really have a setup of the Yankees and the Mariners. Now, I remember seeing these two teams in the playoffs back in the 1990s going up to the old Kingdome in Seattle. And Seattle historically plays very well against the New York Yankees. So Seattle could actually come out of the American League, although I've still got the Yankees coming out of the American League. Now, over in the National League, at the top of their bracket and wild card matchup number one, it would be the Cincinnati Reds against the LA Dodgers. Now, look, the Dodgers should win this one very, very easily. The Dodgers have good pitching. They throw leather. They play defense. They hit from top to bottom. The Reds have a defensive issue. Now, the Dodgers do have a bullpen issue, but the Reds have a real defense issue. And I just think that the defense would end up causing them the loss of a divisional, or better yet, a wild card series against anybody they play. And of course, the Dodgers are defending champions. Listen, they're going to advance, and awaiting the winner of Cincinnati and the Dodgers would be the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, at the bottom of that bracket, here's a replay of the 1984 playoffs with the North Riders from Chicago playing the San Diego Padres. So that said, the Padres are streaking right now, and I have to tell you, the Padres are in a race to win that division. They don't want to have to win, or better yet, they don't want to have to play that extra wild card situation or against a team that is pretty solid from top to bottom. I think if they end up flip-flopping with the Dodgers, well, then they would have an easier road being the Padres against the Cincinnati Reds. Sorry, Reds, but there's a lot of holes there. But the reward of winning the division means the next round you would have to play the Phillies, which I don't see anybody beating the Phillies. I just don't. And looking in the next round where the Padres and the Cubs are playing, the winner will play the number one seed, Milwaukee Brewers. And Milwaukee can beat you in so many different ways. So many different ways. So let's fast forward and think it would be the Dodgers advancing to the Phillies. And those two teams, it's basically flip a coin. You never know which team's going to win there. That's a really good matchup for the teams at the bottom of the bracket because you get two of the big teams that have to basically kill each other off, number 2 and number 3. Now, at the bottom of that bracket, whether it's San Diego or the Cubs, the Brewers play very, very well against both of these two teams. And I still think the Brewers will advance to the National League Championship Series. And I've got the Brewers facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies. And I just think the Phillies have just too much. As much as I want the Brewers to win, I just think Philadelphia's got way too much in the National League, and I don't see anybody beating them. And honestly, as we look at this, the Phillies likely would match up against the Yankees or the Seattle Mariners. I would rather see the Seattle Mariners. And I think it's the Mariners pitching that could get them past the Yankees. That's, of course, thinking that Boston's going to lose to the Yankees and and Toronto would lose to the Yankees, then they would have to potentially face off against Seattle. Seattle's pitching is absolute gold. Now, Wu is out for just 1 week, whatever, but Wu is going to be back for the playoffs. Those guys are ready, and they can play. Seattle looks like the team to get to the World Series from the American League. I just don't know if they can beat Philadelphia. They have the pitching for it. The problem is they don't have the experience, and Philadelphia's got plenty of experience, and they've got guys that have been there, and they just haven't gotten over the hump. Whereas remember, if the Dodgers get by the Phillies, then it would be the Dodgers likely against the Brewers. And the Brewers, I'm discounting the Cubs and the Padres immediately. The Padres play station-to-station ball. They don't hit the long ball. They don't advance runners. The Padres don't do the little things that baseball requires. The Cubs are an extremely streaky team. I mean, they score in bunches. But Milwaukee literally bludgeons you to death. I mean, those guys can beat you in so many ways. Pitching, hitting, stolen bases. They throw leather. Man, these guys are a complete team. And I believe the most complete team in the American League is Seattle. So if you look at it that way, Seattle and Milwaukee are probably the best matchups because these two teams mirror one another. But Seattle can hit the ball out of the ballpark a hell of a lot more, which matches up to Philadelphia a lot better because, well, let's face it, the Yankees can mash, but the Yankees do play station-to-station ball. Philadelphia plays station-to-station ball. They don't steal a lot of bases. Milwaukee does. The Cubs do. San Diego does not. So look for the Cubs to advance against San Diego to square off against Milwaukee. Milwaukee has already beaten them like a drum. And Seattle, over on the other side of the bracket, will advance to the League Championship Series. And they're going to do the same damn thing. So I'm telling you, folks, I'm thinking Seattle and Philadelphia are a really good match, although I'd like to see Seattle and Milwaukee. Back here with a little bit more baseball. Yes, that's right, a heavy dose of it. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows. Also, check out the store. Lots of great items there. Hats, hoodies, t-shirts, sweatpants, coats, pillows, travel mugs, mouse pads, coffee mugs, all kinds of neat stuff. Again, thesportscircus.com. And by the way, this segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. All right, welcome back to everybody on radio and TV and streaming. Pick your favorite platform. Also on Chicago Food Favorites. Check out Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right. And we are going to jump right back into this baseball tiebreakers and whatnot, because I went over a lot of the positioning. But think about this. The Blue Jays, of course, they're first in the American League East right now, 2 games ahead of the Yankees. They win a tiebreaker versus the Mariners, Red Sox, Tigers, and Yankees. But they lose a tiebreaker to the Astros. And of course, the tiebreaker to be determined is still against Cleveland. But the Blue Jays became the first American League team to clinch a playoff spot, but the details are still up in the air. We don't know what the hell's going on here. But Toronto's in great shape if it ends up tied for a division title, having locked up the edge over the Yankees and Red Sox. If they end up with a tie with the Tigers or Mariners for best record in the American League, the Jays own that tiebreaker as well. Now, with the Yankees, of course, second in the American League, 2 games behind Toronto, they win the tiebreaker against the Mariners. They lose the tiebreaker with the Jays, Red Sox, and Tigers. Now, the tiebreaker still to be determined is the Astros and the Guard. So the Yankees hold a key wildcard tiebreaker over Seattle, but they'd lose out to either of the top American League East teams and the Tigers. And boy, the Tigers are reeling. Speaking of the Tigers, yeah, again, 1 game ahead of Cleveland, and they're first right now. And they win the tiebreaker against Houston and the Yankees, lose the tiebreaker with Toronto. But this is where the water gets real muddy here. Tiebreakers to be determined are still the Red Sox, because they have 3 games against them, and Cleveland, where they have 3 games against them. But the Tigers would need to sweep Cleveland in the team's final series to secure a crucial tiebreaker. Now back to Cleveland, of course, 1 game behind Detroit. They win the tiebreaker against the Astros, seeming like everybody else. They lose the tiebreaker to Seattle and Boston, though. And the ones to be determined is against the Tigers, because there's 3 games left with them, and of course the same thing with the Yankees. So just 1 game back in the American League Central, the red-hot Cleveland Guard need just 1 win in their final 3 games against Detroit to secure the actual tiebreaker itself. Now over in the American League West, of course we have Seattle in first by 3 games over Houston. They win the tiebreaker against Houston, Detroit, and Cleveland. Lose the tiebreaker against the Blue Jays and Yankees. and they still don't know what's going to happen with Boston. So the Mariners wrapped up a pivotal tiebreaker against Houston after that 3-game sweep over the weekend and lead the American League West, of course, by those 3 games with 6 to play. Now, the Astros are in a dubious position. They win the tiebreaker against the Blue Jays. That's it. They lose the tiebreaker against all the teams that matter: Cleveland, Seattle, Boston, and Detroit. And still, they don't even know what's going to happen with the Yankees yet because they still have that. Now, after losing that weekend series head-to-head with Seattle, the Astros would lose out in a tiebreaker scenario with the 4 closest teams in the standings. So talk about a dumpster fire. There it is. Now, in the wild card, the Red Sox currently hold the 2nd American League wild card. They win the tiebreaker against Houston, Cleveland, and New York, being the Yankees. They lose it against Toronto and Texas. That's right, Texas. They're still in the discussion. Now, the tiebreaker still to be determined is Seattle and Detroit because they've got 3-3 against them. But the Red Sox hold a head-to-head tiebreaker over the Astros, Guard, and Yankees. But a tiebreaker with Seattle for a wild card spot would come down to each team's intra-divisional record. Plot thickens. Let's shift over to the National League. Yeah, the Phillies, well, they've clinched, of course, as we know. They win the tiebreaker against the Dodgers and the Cubs, but they lose the tiebreaker to the Brujas. And there are no other to-be-determines for them. So after losing the season series to Milwaukee, the Phillies clinched the tiebreaker against the Dodgers by winning the first 2 games of their 3-game set in L.A. Now, over in the Central, it's the Brujas running away with it, just like the Phillies ran away with the East. And the Brujas win the tiebreaker against the vital tiebreakers against the Dodgers and Phillies. But they lose the tiebreaker against the Cubs, which they don't have to worry about because that's basically all wrapped up. Now, the only tiebreaker to be determined would be with the Padres. And, of course, they've got 3 games left. Now, the Brewers still, with the best record in baseball, also clinched a first-round bye with their last win. Now, over in the West, boy, this is getting really muddy here, folks, but listen, we've got a few more minutes. The Dodgers right now are first in the National League West, 3 games, better yet, a few games ahead of, we'll call it 2 games ahead of San Diego. They win the tiebreaker, though, against the Padres, but they lose the tiebreaker against Milwaukee, the Cubs, the Mets, and the Phillies. So the Dodgers are kind of a world of hurt here. But by winning 9 of 13 between the 2 clubs, the Dodgers have secured a huge National League West tiebreaker over San Diego. They would lose out on tiebreaker, of course, with the Brewers or Phillies, though, which I had mentioned. That would be disastrous for them. The Padres, 2nd in the West, and a couple of games behind the Dodgers, they win the tiebreaker over the Giants and the Mets. They lose the tiebreaker against the Dodgers and the Cincinnati Reds. And, of course, the ones to be determined are the Cubs and D-backs. You got 3-3 there. So we don't know what's going to happen with San Diego there. Now, over in the wild card, here's where the water really gets muddy. That's right, I think I just said that, but guess what? I'm saying it again. Now, the Cubs currently hold the first spot in the wild card. They win the tiebreaker against the Brewers, which doesn't matter, and the Dodgers, which doesn't matter. Now, they lose the tiebreaker against the Phillies because the Phillies have whooped them up. And the only tiebreakers to be remaining, that's right, are the Mets and the Padres. But the Cubs clinched a postseason appearance with their win over the Pirates, which is no big feat, but then again, it's a division game. You got to win those. They still have a chance to win head-to-head over the Mets. Any tiebreaker with the Padres would come down to division record. Now, the Padres in the wild card race, they hold the tiebreaker against the Giants and Mets. They lose it against the Dodgers and Reds. Still to be determined are the Cubs and D-backs. So the Padres picked up a key wild card tiebreaker with their win over the Mets in the last one. And, of course, that would break a tie with the Cubs. Now, the Reds, boy, I mean, this is getting a little bit crazier. The Reds, believe it or not, they win the tiebreaker over Arizona, the New York Mets, and the Padres. How do you like that? They lose the tiebreaker with the Cardinals, which are a non-factor. And, of course, the one to be determined for the Reds is with the San Francisco Giants. But the Reds own important tiebreakers against the Diamondbacks and Mets should they end up and end the season with the same record as one of those clubs for a wild card slot. So the Reds really hold a really big piece of that puzzle. And it's funny, at the very beginning of the season, I had told my friends that are down in the greater Cincinnati market, they said, where do you think the Cubs are going to, or the Reds are going to be with Terry Francona as their manager? I said, they're going to be 4 games over 500. I really saw them as an 83 and 79 team. 4 games over. Well, guess what? They have 6 games left, and where are they? That's right, 4 games over.
Show me the money!
That's right. So far, I have picked the Reds almost perfectly, but they hold some real key tiebreakers. The problem is the Reds don't play defense, and there's their problem right there. They're an early exit. Now, the Mets, in the wild card situation, they have a tiebreaker against the Cards, which are not a factor, and the Giants, which are a factor. But they lose a tiebreaker to Arizona, San Diego, and Cincinnati, and the Mets hold the tiebreaker over 2 of their closest competitors in the wild card race, the Giants and Cardinals, but they don't have a tiebreaker over the Reds, and they lose a tiebreaker with the Diamondbacks on intra-divisional record if the 2 clubs tie for the postseason. Now, the Diamondbacks, 1 game behind Cincinnati and New York for the 3rd wild card team in the National League. Now, they win the tiebreaker, Arizona does, against the Giants and the Mets. They lose it, of course, with the Reds. And so the D-backs secured a key head-to-head tiebreaker over the San Francisco Giants with a series win at Chase Field, and they would be guaranteed to finish the season with a better division record than the Mets if the 2 teams ended up in a tie for the wild card slot, handing Arizona a key tiebreaker. Interesting what happened with Arizona last season, how they lost on the last game of the season on the Atlanta Braves and Philadelphia Phillies split of a doubleheader. So here it could be Arizona's team or turn to flip the tables on some of the other clubs here. Now the Giants in the wild card race, they sit 3 behind Cincinnati and the Mets. They have no tiebreaker wins. They lose it with Arizona, San Diego, and New York, and they still don't know what's going to happen with the Reds and the Cardinals. The Giants really, they lose head-to-head basically with everybody. They're in big trouble. Cardinals, I ain't going to talk about them. Forget it. Marlins, I want to mention it just because we can. Because the Marlins, 4 games behind Cincinnati and New York, they actually win the tiebreaker against the Reds, which nobody seems to have that one. And they win the tiebreaker against the San Francisco Giants. They don't lose it to anybody. How do you like that? And the tiebreaker is to be determined for the Marlins, who are not eliminated yet. They have the Cardinals, D-backs, and Mets. That's right. They actually could somehow sneak in there. The Marlins are still in the mix after winning 6 straight games, but their chances of a postseason berth are very, very slim, and their season-ending series with the Mets from September 26 to 28 could help them gain some ground and secure a head-to-head tiebreaker. What a ridiculous race this is, but that's why they play the game, and that's why we actually have these wild card chases here. They're kind of fun. I'm not really excited about the fact that we have so many teams that are vying for baseball World Series appearances. I mean, basically, we're talking about 12 teams here. But guess what? Right now, it's the more the merrier. And that was a very good breakdown, compliments of MajorLeagueBaseball.com, of a lot of the information in addition to all the stuff that's floating around in my head. But remember, I had said the Cincinnati Reds were going to finish 4 games over 500. Let's see what happens with the Redlegs. And boy, it's been fun so far, and there's a lot of baseball left to be played here before we go on to the postseason. Until then, in 23 hours, we'll be back here on the circus. You'll be here too. I'll be here, and we'll see you then. So long, everyone.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.